and capture it. So good afternoon. Welcome everybody to this month's August Masterclass. It is a bit of a quieter one because so many people are off doing Augusty summery type things in different routines and so on. But it's lovely to have you all here. And to those of you catching up on replay, you are welcome. And we have got a treat today. So I have met Belinda this year and been party to. She's introduced me to a process which feels like we should already know it. It's so simple, it's brilliant, but it really has an impact. And the great thing is when you're introducing processes or systems into your life, actually simple really works. But it's more about a way of thinking. And it's a given method called Agile planning. And Belinda is one of the at the forefront of this process and has actually written a book called Being Agile in Business, which I'm sure she'll wave at as she's looking around. I can see she's like, I haven't got it nearby. Got to wave my book at people. Being Agile in Business, which I've actually got a copy of. Having done a couple of Belinda's masterclasses and follow-up workshops with her, and finding it extremely useful in creating a rock solid foundation to my own organizing this thing that's in my head and sorting it out, pulling out the strings, and then being able to follow an active process that allows me to make real progress in my business. So I think this is something that's really valuable for everyone. So Belinda's been doing this for many, many years, and she's worked with corporates, with councils, with local people, individually with businesses, but also with groups and team workshops. So I'm going to hand over to Belinda and let her take us through. We've got till 2 o'clock, Belinda. Perhaps we'll leave questions till the end. So ignore the chat and we'll do that at the end. Unless there's anything, I'll keep an eye on it. So if there's anything that needs to be asked at that moment, but otherwise, let's keep questions till the end and let's get a feel for your workshop. Thank you. Over to you, my love.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you. And hello, everyone. It's fab to see everyone. Hiya, Sally. I like your background. I'm like, oh, what are on those shelves? It's like my curiosity kicks in. I want to know. It's brilliant. And it's lovely to meet you all. And thank you so much for I feel like I suddenly have really fluffy hair. I don't know what's going on. Maybe my Zoom filter isn't filtering the thing. I feel like I still got hat hair. I took my pony out yesterday, and Anyway, don't let me talk about ponies. Little thing. I always start things with a. I do have a little Jack Russell, who occasionally likes to sort of photo bomb or whatever you call it, like come and say hello. He's very friendly. He's a bit more agile than I'd like. He's only 2, but he's being a good boy at the moment. But I always like to kind of mention it because it's not a surprise if he does launch himself up. It usually happens when it comes to the questions. I don't know why. He's only 2, and I think he's learned certain times in sessions he's allowed to come and say hello. Anyway, right, so. As Nicola really kindly introduced me, so most of my work over the years has been around sort of coaching small businesses, startups. I'm based down in Cornwall. I've worked a lot with sort of businesses and organisations to get them up and running. And when I wrote my book, that sort of took me around the world, really. It was really exciting, and I sort of worked with all sorts of different organisations and yeah, it's been really exciting. And so I sort of work often with sort of small businesses, helping them with their sort of growth and development plans. I basically took the methodology that Nicola mentioned, Agile, and I've translated it for use within businesses. So it tends to be sort of small businesses, solopreneurs, or people that work in part of a small team or organisation, but equally I have done it with big teams and organisations as well. I'm going to share my slides to keep me on track. What we're going to do today, I'm going to give you a little bit of the theory behind what I do, and then we're going to do a bit of a practical. So just to give you a little bit of a taste and get you going with things really. And I quite like it that it's a Monday because it's quite a nice time to sort of pause and actually kind of think about some of these things. So it's my when I get excited, I tend to talk a lot, so excuse that. Right, where's my slides? There we go. Let's get those playing. So I've spun this slightly today because I appreciate you guys are solopreneurs, so I wanted to really sort of hone in on that. Um, I mentioned my pony and a dog, and there's a little photo of them as well. I live down near the Eden Project, so I enjoy going out and about on them with around the Eden Project, which is fabulous. As Nicola mentioned, I wrote the book, and I do sort of in person, but I do a lot of online coaching and training now as well. So I just wanted to sort of, we've done my welcome and intro really. So I was just going to ask in the chat just so that I get a kind of feel um, for who you are and what you do, whether you could just sort of give me a really sort of brief introduction to who you are, what you do, and what's on your mind at the moment, because that's what I kind of want to focus in on. So when I ask that question, sometimes I ask people what keeps you awake, what's keeping you awake at night at the moment? What's on your mind that you'd like to work on at the moment? So pop it into the chat. And that'll just help me because I've got lots of stories, so it's quite nice to be able to sort of give you some relevant stuff as well as talk more generically. So, Sally, I can see your Downlands Wellness. Oh, good boy. And oh, oh, I need to open the chat, don't I? That would help. Where has it gone? That's oh, there's Nikki's and oh, well-being, weight loss, and coaching. Oh, I love that. That's really cool. That reminds me actually, my well-being. I seem to have an awful lot of people coming back recently saying, "This is amazing for my neurodiversity. This is amazing for my ADHD." And so that's been really, really interesting. And actually, through my own journey, I got hit by burnout and long COVID and chronic illness a few years back. And it's really helped me. This system has really helped me to recover and get myself back to going. UK Girl wanted to build a business that gives me plenty of time. Oh, I'm with you. I am with you there. So one of the things I had to do because of my chronic illness and my everything sort of going on in my life was I kind of went from operating at like 100%, traveling, doing things and stuff. And when I sort of broke, I had to change my business. So I basically focused in. So now I actually work around 20% of my time, whereas before it was like 80% work, 20% life. Now my world is very much 20% work, 80% life. And that I've got to say that was a bit forced on me. But one of my sort of missions in my coaching is actually helping people to do that before they burn out and before they do. So Bella, I've got a photo from yesterday. I took my pony riding, so I am going to share that. I try and always include a photo of my pony in my talks. But wow, so you were oh gosh, that sounds amazing. But yeah, so this is really great around that sort of work-life balance and helping you to just keep things under control, I guess. But there's loads of synergy with riding as well. Do not let me get distracted by that because you can apply all this stuff to life as much as work. Growing my audience and network is my challenge. Brilliant. Nail down your strategy for the 18 months. Oh, brilliant. Fab. My business is helping people find and learn peaceful pastimes and are really bad at focusing. Oh, you'll love this. Weight loss coach. See, I think some of this stuff would really apply as well. So you can sort of take it and use it. Oh, you're an agile project manager. Brilliant. And never translated into your business. Oh, you'll love this, Sally. You'll absolutely love this. It's And if you know kind of agile project management, this is similar but different. So I've very much kind of developed and evolved it so that it's not sort of tech orientated. So it is very much business orientated. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to love this. Brilliant, brilliant. Right. Okay. Oh, that's fabulous. God dear. Isn't it? It's one of those where you meet a group of people and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to talk wellness and ponies and all those different things with you guys now. So it's absolutely brilliant. And I think I can sow some seeds in there as well in terms of talking about it. So what I want to do today is really thinking about kind of adaptable mindset and adaptable planning. And one of my little jokes actually is I often say my first pony, my little 11-2 Welsh mountain pony, taught me more about being agile than anything else in this world ever did. Because you have to be adaptable when you're riding, because it's, complacency is the most dangerous thing when you're riding. And I think that can translate through to business as well. So it's that sort of adaptable thinking rather than trying to kind of, well, actually, let me show you my first slide. So this is often, I include this in my thing. Does this resonate with you guys? I can see Sally smiling and Nicholas smiling. So often, I mean, I think this summarizes life in a lot of ways, but certainly in business, we can set out with a goal and we're like, right, this is where we are, this is where we're going to be, this is our plan of get there. And then once we actually get into it and we start going, the plan goes out the window. And what my students, the plan goes out the window and you wing it. So Agile is really a way of helping us to manage that chaos, if you like, what actually happened, and help us to navigate that and be able to adapt and respond based on the feedback that we're getting, rather than just keep following the plan. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to respond to change over following that fixed plan that we put in place first off. So, and what this session really, it's giving you a little bit of a taste of how we can use the mindset and the methodology to help us to reduce our overwhelm, get ourselves organized, keep that focus, track things and think about things as real-time planning rather than, something that we do at the beginning and then it's like a fixed document. It's very much a sort of real-time plan. Help us to kind of feel more in control, even when things are shifting and changing, and make decisions, get those quick wins, stay motivated, and create this way of working that's not just about us, doing lots, but actually that's sustainable as well. So I talk about creating a sustainable pace because you can kind of use this method to run at like 150%. But if you do that, then you're going to end up burning out. So it's important, that kind of element of actually using it to create that sustainable pace and really focusing in on that, like I was talking about, that sort of 20% that's delivering us that 80% value, and really leveraging that and taking our businesses forward. So I love this little matrix. Again, it's just a bit of a kind of food for thought one. So just thinking about, just again, a quick question for you in terms of where you are right now. So this matrix, we've got two axes. We've got our what and our how. So we've got, are we close to agreement or far from agreement on what we're doing? And then are we close to certainty or far from certainty on how we're going to do things? So if you were to put yourself on that matrix at the moment, where would you put yourself? So we've got that kind of down there in simple. I know exactly what I'm doing and know exactly how I'm going to do it, and I can crack on and do it. And that's quite simple. Or is it sort of edging away from that? So it's a bit more complicated, not entirely sure what we're doing or how we're going to do things. Or indeed, are you doing something quite new and different, which means that things, it's very much not clear what or how you're doing things, or up there in chaos. I have no idea what I'm doing or how I'm going to do things right now. So I can see I've got a couple. So complex. Yeah, complex. So it's not entirely clear what you're doing, how you're going to do things, but not up there in chaos, which is a good thing. And this is where I think a lot of us, as solopreneurs, spend our lives is up there in complex and chaotic. It's yeah, Rachel, you just put the complicated, but it feels chaotic. That's a really nice point, because actually, what I'll often do is when I'm working with somebody who kind of comes back and goes, "It's chaos, Belinda," is what we'll do is we'll break that down. So we'll go, okay, what's going on in your world right now? Let's plot those. And what often happens is that only around 20% is up there in chaos. But what happens, of course, is it only takes a tiny bit of chaos to make everything feel chaotic. So that's quite a nice little exercise when things are feeling chaotic. Make yourself a copy of this, plot it on through, and you can work on that. And so often what we can do is when things are new and different, we can work on them. And as we get to know them, we get to do them better. We can kind of move them from complex down into complicated or into simple. But often things are inherently complex. Anything involving human beings, for example, generally tends to be complex. So what Agile is really all about, and thank you for all those responses. That's brilliant. And I think we're all out there. Nobody's down in simple. That's what we sort of aim for. But simple can be boring as well. And I think often the reason we're in business is because we like a bit of diversity and we like a bit of a challenge. But Agile is all about when we're up here in complex and chaotic. So when we're down in simple, we can take a fairly predictable approach. Yeah, we can plan things up front, we can do them, and we can take that predictable approach. Agile is very much an adaptive planning tool. So it's really for when we're up there in complex, up there in chaotic. And what happens when we're up there in complex and chaotic, I found this little graphic, which I really like, is often, we start something and it's new and it's different and it's like, oh yeah, this will be fine. And then when actually you start getting into it, you start to realize like you don't know what you don't know. There are unknowns, there are unknown unknowns, things we don't even know about. And once we start to get into it, then we can sometimes find that we're not getting that visibility because those things are different and our decision making can slow down. It's kind of impossible to plan up front when you're up there in complex and chaotic, because often you've never done it before. So it's really hard to plan things. It's hard to know how long they're going to take. We're having to learn new skills, new resources. Goalposts are moving. We might be starting things but not finishing them. Things are taking longer than we expected them to, or they're snowballing, so they become massive. And then on top of that, as businesses, we're trying to do this, perhaps something new and different, but then we're also having to balance that with our day to day as well. Does that resonate? So what we kind of want to do is we want to have a process and a system that allows us to actually ensure that we are making things visible, that we can make those decisions, that we can plan, that we can respond to those changes. So the little sort of practical session today is sort of taking us from this left-hand side to actually sort of looking at that and then starting to break it down and get it back into a place where we can actually actively work on it, rather than it feeling like this big overwhelming thing. So before we jump into the exercise, I just wanted to give you this little kind of sort of snapshot in, if you like, around sort of what adaptable thinking really looks like. And one of my favourite sayings is run sprints, not marathons. So when we're doing something, it can often feel like this massive, great big long marathon, and it is. I'm not gonna kid anyone. It is basically a big long marathon that we're trying to achieve. As as small business owners. But what we want to do is we want to break that down into short sprints of work. So we run that marathon, but we're running it in lots of little short sprints of work. So we're sort of planning, if we think of it as a literal marathon, we can think of it as, okay, I'm going to plan that mile, I'm going to run that mile, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to reflect and review, see where I am, and then I'm going to plan the next mile. Yeah. And then I'm going to do that mile, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to catch my breath. I'm going to review and reflect, and then I'm going to plan my next mile again. Yeah. And each time, what this sort of sprint process allows us to do is actually pause and reflect and plan in little chunks so they're achievable. Yeah. So we can set ourselves sort of mini goals that we can then plan and take forward and reflect and review. So this idea of sprints, I just wanted to kind of sow that seed, because it's kind of a nice way, if something feels again like overwhelming, and think is, okay, how can I break this down? And you can apply this to all sorts of things. You can apply it to like your day to day, but if you've got a particular project in mind, then you can think about, okay, how can I break this particular project down into sprints? And sprints is becoming a bit of a buzzword, actually. I seem to notice that lots of different people are using it an awful lot recently, and probably without the actual knowledge behind what a sprint is. But it's a nice kind of metaphor to use to get us to think about that. So the little exercise that I want to do, what I want to do is I want to take us through this little exercise. It's basically a kind of bit of a one step at a time approach. It really helps to get you focused on particular things that you're working on, helps you to free up your headspace, helps organize and prioritize things, make them easy and achievable, get them done, and take it one small step at a time. Yeah. So if you've got them handy, has everybody got some post-it notes handy? What I'd like you to do is grab some if you have. If you haven't, don't worry, just grab a pen and paper. Yay, Sally's got some, Nick's got some. Brilliant. Sorry, Nicola. My sister's called Nicola, so I've just automatically shortened you to Nick. Apologies if
Nick
you
is
prefer.
fine.
Is
Nikki
it?
is not. There we are. We get it out in the space now.
Oh, there you
Nick
go.
is
Oh,
brilliant.
okay.
Nikki is.
Brilliant, brilliant. So hopefully you've got some post-it notes handy, and just sort of clear a bit of space in front of you. If you haven't, don't worry, just grab a bit of paper and a pen and you can sort of play along, and then you can always grab some post-its or go digital later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, so here I've just put a little snapshot of a planner that I use. This is one of my sort of core tools and methods that I teach. It's a planner that I developed. It's very much about helping to introduce the mindset and the method of Agile. So we're going to create a simplified version of this today, and we're going to use our post-it notes. I have managed to work out how to create QR codes, so there is a QR code there that will take you through, and you can actually sort of download the template for this, and a little guide as well if you'd like to. So right, everybody got their post-it notes? All good? Brilliant. Right. So first of all, I'm mixing a couple of my little games and exercises that I do today. And one of my favorites is one called Remember the Future. So what I'd like you to do is think about that thing that you were talking about earlier. So the thing that you shared, like what's on your mind at the moment. And I'd like you to imagine that we have fast forwarded, basically. So we're meeting again. Nick's got me in as a guest again, perhaps, 6 months, a year's time, whenever it is, that works for you. And we've met up and we're having a massive party and we're chatting, and you're telling me all about this thing that you've been working on, but it's gone brilliantly. So you'll meet me, that thing that I told you about last time we met has gone absolutely brilliantly, really successful, and you're telling me all about it. So what I'd like you to do on your first post-it notes is just, what are we celebrating? What is this goal or this thing that you were um, uh, that you imagined when I talked about what's on your mind. What is it that you're celebrating? So just capture that on one or two post-it notes. And if anybody wants to pop it in the chat, well, if they'd like to share, you don't have to, but if you'd like to, that's oh yeah, financial stability on 20 hours work week. That's a good one, Bella. Lots of riding. That's what I was expecting for you. Being able to ride my pony every day. So, selling a training, brilliant. That's a really nice one as well. So yeah, Bella's absolutely. That's and it is achievable. It is achievable. I am living proof. So there we go. That's live coaching with regular paying clients. Brilliant. Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. Right, so with that in mind, yeah, so we're at this party, we're celebrating, you've sold your training, you're out riding every day, you're down to your 20-hour week, you've got your life coaching is really successful, you've got lots of regular clients, we're really celebrating. Next, what I want you to think about is what did you do? So if you were talking to me and telling me, you might be going, you might be remembering when certain things happened. Remember when I bought, somebody bought that first training. Remember when, that week I got to ride every single day. Remember when, that social media post worked really, really well. Remember when that email landed particularly well. So, what I want you to do is think about what are some of the things that you did. And this is kind of about lightening our mental load. So, really, it's sort of saying, okay, what are the to dos? What did you do to get yourself to that point? And just thinking about it in that kind of creative, open way. It doesn't have to be an exact, we're just sort of remembering that future and some of the things that we did. So, connect some of those. Just come to say hello. So, I'm going to give you a minute. And Jed's timing's very good that he can have a little fuss while you're doing that. Good boy. Come and say hello. Come on then. Boy. See this? There's Jed. If you like a puppy to make you smile. Oh boy. What you'll often find with this exercise as well is like it might be quite hard to think of the first couple of things. And then all of a sudden your brain will open up and you'll be scribbling lots of things down. So think about this as a bit of a taster that you can come back to and work through in your own time. You know, we're firing through it quite quickly today, but actually you can just come back to this and capture all those potential options, all those potential things that you could do to get you to that future that you're imagining. Yeah. So hopefully you've captured a couple of things, have you? All good. Excellent. Right. So now what I want you to do with those post-it notes is I want you to, we're just going to do a little bit of prioritization organization. Now there's loads of different prioritize organization tools that I teach, but I'm just sticking with the really simple one today, which is this something that I do sooner or is it something that I'm going to do later? So what I'd like you to do is just literally, if you've got your post-it notes in front of you, is sort them into two piles or two sides. So you've got stuff that you want to do sooner on the right-hand side and stuff that you're going to do later on that left-hand side. So just take a minute to sort through those. I like this one because it's quite a quick and easy one to do. So you can just literally go. And what we want to do is we can park the stuff that we've put in later because it's going to be later. And what we're going to do now is we're going to focus in on those sooners. I have a whoops crazy part in the middle. Yeah. I like there's also like crisis pile. Yeah, I got you there. They're like yeah. That's what if nothing is later? Think about think about separating them into now and next. So if everything's in sooner, just see if there's stuff that you can kind of go, actually, that stuff I'll do next. So say there's something that you've got to do first and then afterwards, that would be quite a nice way to sort those. So stuff that you're doing right now and then stuff that you'll do next. So if we think about the sprint idea, like what would I be doing this sprint, whereas what might wait to a later sprint? Does that make sense? Brilliant. Yeah, and it's absolutely fine to have one in the middle as well. It's yeah, that's okay, Sally. Sometimes they come out really high level and big, and sometimes they come out really micro small. Both is fine. So if you've got those sort of statements, then what we want to do, and actually you're right on it, because the next bit is thinking about like in those sooner ones that you've got is what's one small thing that you could do. So that sweeping statement, think about like what's one small actionable thing that I could do in the next week or two that I could actually do. What's something really small and simple? Yeah. Because what we want to do is we want to break down these things into really sort of little bite-sized pieces that we can take one little step at a time. So it might be, I'm trying to think of one like my social media post went viral. And it's like, okay, well, what do I need to do to start moving towards that? I need to start creating some social media posts. I might test some ideas. I might talk to a social media expert about it. I might do some research about social media, or I might sign up to an account or something like that. It might be stuff that you've got to prepare as well. So something that you've got to do before you can do something. I remember we were doing with this course that I've met Nicola through. There was things like, oh, just post out something on social media. And it's like, yeah, but before I do that, I need an image, then I need this and I need that. So there are like umpteen things I need to do before I can just do that. So it's thinking about what's one little thing that you could do against those things in sooner. The nice one, set some time in your diary to prioritize your business development. The one, it's a slight little tangent, but I feel in, when I sort of talk about people say things, I'm like, I've got to say. It. One of the things that I find an awful lot is if I say, right, Thursday afternoons, that's going to be when I focus on my business development. Yeah. I can almost guarantee for the next 6 Thursdays, something's going to happen that stops me doing that. Like, something will pop up every single Thursday afternoon that distracts me and stops me being able to do that. This is one of the reasons why I find the sprint method works really, really well, because what it does is it's like when you have that time, you can immediately, so you can almost have like a board, say, like I've got my board behind there, where when I've got some time to work on my business development project, which is literally that board, I can walk up to that board and go, right, what's next? And I can take it off and I can focus in on it there and then. So we can have this sort of idea that we're planning a sprint of work and say that week that sprint is a week, is I'm going to go, okay, I'm only going to plan, like 80% of that sprint. I'm going to leave myself 20% for that business development, and that time can float around the sprint. So it means that, if a client wants to meet you on that Thursday afternoon, you can say, yes, that's fine. And your business development afternoon moves to Tuesday afternoon instead. Yeah. And so it can float around. So yeah, slight little tangent, but a useful one. That's it's I sort of I like to try and share as much as possible, but this is some of the stuff that we get into a bit more in the course as well, is how we start to kind of make sure we've got that time for business development and those things that we want to do, as well as those things that we have to do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a little mini version of the Agile canvas. So what we've done so far is we've almost filled out this box, our future work. So we've put down what are those things that we want to do, and then we've sorted them into later and sooner, and then we've broken those down into smaller actionable tasks. So if you've got a bit of sheet paper handy, or just literally sort of make a little sketch of this, because you may not be able to do this in the moment, but if you've got a couple of bit of A4 paper, you can do it. Is we've got that, like I say, we've got that future work. So on this one, I've got two different colours. I've got my agile planning that I want to do, and then I've got a social media campaign that I want to do as well. So I've broken that agile planning and down into a smaller task that I can do straight away. And it's like, right, I'm going to create a board. So you guys, if you've got like a whiteboard at home or a window or a bit of a back of a sheet of wrapping paper, I often suggest to people, because that's something you've often got, around a large sheet of paper, and create this little planner. So we've got our future work on the left hand side. The stuff in later we've parked, the stuff in sooner we're going to start working on. So when we start our sprint as such, our sprint is what is in our to do. So for this one, I've moved these two cards across. This is what I want to do this week, this sprint in terms of like my business development. So this might be a board particularly focused, not particularly on the day to day, but very much focused on this particular project that you're working on. But equally, you can use it for your day to day as well. So this is what I want to get done. And then it's really simply this kind of to do, doing, done. So as I start working on it, I'll move it into my doing column. And then once I've finished it, it'll move into my done. And then I can start on my next task. So this one I can start doing, and then I can move it into done when it's complete. So again, this stuff on the left is parked. This on the right hand side is our current sprint of work. And we'll work on that. And as done, once we've completed everything and done, we can then choose the next things that we want to bring over. What we may have done in the meantime is added more to this, because this is basically a list of options. Yeah. So this is basically, these are all the things that I could do. What am I going to do this sprint and take forward? Yeah. So if you're like me and you have lots of shiny ideas, this is a great way to kind of park those ideas and then get back to what you're meant to be working on. So I'm very easily distracted by shiny things. So is that making sense to everybody? Yeah. So, and you can use this in a really simple, you can use this as in its simplest form, in the sense of, right, here's my to-do list. So if you're a big to-do list person, basically future represents your to-do list. These post-it notes represent all the things on your to-do list, so you never have to write a to-do list again. I used to be a massive list person, and this really creates like more of a dynamic list where you can choose what you're going to work on. And again, in as you sort of get into this in more detail, there's much more guidance on how you choose what to do, how you break it down further, what happens when things get stuck. So when you look at the sort of bigger template, there are various different other boxes here, which you can learn more about. We haven't got time to cover them all today, but if this is something that you are kind of interested in, there's things like the waiting box, which helps if you get stuck. So that helps to keep you moving. Feedback is around kind of helping you to test and experiment and learn and improve. Your inbox is for managing those sort of inbound items, unexpected items that are coming in, and making sure that you're keeping that balance. And creating ourselves some slack there so that we can take on those sort of unplanned tasks as well. So I think, did I put, it's hidden under my. So I just thought I'd show you a couple of examples. So this is actually an early version of the board that's behind me. It's a little bit messy, but that's how I'm quite creative. So I like my post-it notes. But you can see here I've got lots of things. So this is actually me completing a course. So the post-it notes are sort of representing the sections of the course that I'm working on and different types of things that are happening. And then so it was a weekly thing. And then this is so this is session 1. You can see that that's now broken down into smaller actionable tasks that I'm taking through. Things that I'm actively working on at the moment, things that I'm looking at getting some feedback on. So I've done them, but I'm waiting to get some feedback. And then our done box. And it's really nice to have that done box, because often when we do things and we complete them, it's done and we forget about it and we're on to the next thing. actually saving our duns can be really nice. One, because, again, if you're like me, you can get to the end of the week and feel like I haven't really got anything done this week. What have I done? And then you basically grab your post-it and you look in your done box and go, oh, actually, look, I did quite a lot of stuff. I got quite a lot of stuff done this week. And also, it gives you a chance to really pause and reflect on those things and say, oh, okay, cool. What could I do more of? What could I do less of? What can I change? So this plan and plan sprint. So the right hand side, Sally, is your sprint. The left hand side is your shiny ideas. So like the left hand side of the board is all the shiny things that I could do, and then this right hand side of the board is this is what I'm actually going to do. This is the stuff that I've picked, and then I've broken it down into small bite size thing. I recognise that course just doing it. Oh, are you? Oh, brilliant. So I've used, if you're doing the course, I did a talk as well. So it's worth looking up that because it shows you how I've applied it. It's and your done box, it is, yeah, it's a really nice, just sort of, celebrating those successes and actually, recognizing that we are getting things done and we're making those small steps, and that really helps to kind of build up that momentum. But it also gives us that chance to kind of stop and reflect and review as well and say, okay, you know, like me, I'll kind of go, oh yeah, that was a shiny distraction. I probably shouldn't have let myself do that. Or, oh, that was a really valuable thing. I need to do more of that. That landed really well. Um, with this, so you can use a physical, tangible board. I love my post-it notes, and it keeps things really visible. Literally, it's on the wall there, so I can go up and I can look at it. Anytime I want. But the other option is you can look at digital tools. Now, this next slide is a little bit overwhelming. Okay, so I just want to say that don't think. But I wanted to show you a snapshot of one of the Trello boards that I work on. So the digital option is you can recreate this as a digital board if you prefer. Also, I find the digital boards are really good for detail. So, for example, if I'm like running an email campaign or a social media campaign, I can actually save the detail in the digital board. So you can track it across. And then once you've run the campaign, if you want to run it again, you can kind of reset the board, move everything from done back into to do. And so if you're doing something for the first time and you're mapping the process, this really helps to like map the process through so that then you can go back and reset it. But I just wanted to give you, because people always ask me, is there a digital version, Melinda? So I wanted to include this because Trello is like a free tool. You can get 10 free boards with it. It's the one I like. I'm not, I think it's about finding digital tools that work for you, in all honesty. So you might have the Microsoft version planner, which is similar, and there are lots of others out there. But as you can see, you can kind of add much more colours and deadlines and attachments and detail to the boards. And again, there's sort of much more on this, but it's always a question that I get. So I wanted to include that as well. Um, so it's really, really simple. Like Nicola said, it's a really, really simple, process. So what we've done, we've focused in, what was that thing that you were remembering? What was that thing on your mind that you want to focus in on? Yeah. We've then freed up your headspace by getting it all out of your head onto post-it notes. We've then organized and prioritized it. Yeah. So what are we going to do first? What are we going to do later? We've broken it down. What's that first thing that I need to do to take me on this step forward with it? Because often these things can feel overwhelming and that can stall us. So think about what's one little tiny thing that we can do. Then we can run our sprint, get that done. Now you can take that, you can think of a sprint as just one post-it at a time, or you can batch things. It really depends. So there are different sort of modes, if you like. That you can use, like if you're in firefighting mode, take it one post-it note at a time. If you're more kind of organized, might be having like ones and sort of planning things and know a bit more about what you're doing, how you're going to do things. You might be able to batch those things and bring things over a few at a time. So how's that feeling? How does it feel to sort of get things out of your head and start thinking about the different things that you've got to do? Has it been helpful? I think, where am I? Yeah.
I'm a Trello user, as you know, Belinda. I'm trying to retrain myself to use my Trello every single day, and inspired by your workshop that I did a month or so ago. I've done a lunch and learn on Trello in our membership, so it is there for members to go and have a look at. So I'll just flag that. I think some of the people on this call were on that and some weren't. So just to flag, there is a half hour, Sally, a half hour lunch and learn. My half an hour lunch and learns have sort of stretched to become like an hour over the course of the year. So we're going back to half an hour from September, no kidding, so that people can squeeze them in with their sandwich at lunchtime. But yes, there is a Trello session, just the introduction to it and how you can use it with this kind of system as well in mind. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So you can sort of combine the two then. Nicola can give you that sort of bit of guidance on Trello, and then you can use the template to create your board. Asana is very similar to Trello. So yeah, use that. Yeah, the Sally, you spend too much time planning and replanning and not actually doing anything. This is perfect for that because it actually starts to keep you moving rather than get caught up in that planning loop, because we can get caught in that planning loop and never actually get to the doing, because as fast as we create a plan, things change and you have to change your plan, and so you get caught in that kind of planning loop. So if you break it down small enough, you should start to get that momentum going forward. So just in terms of next steps, there's the QR code here. You can look me up or visit my website. On there, you can there's a more full guided kind of workshop that you can watch for free. You can download the template and the guide, and also I'm always really happy to have a call to chat through as well, so sort of get you up and running. So you can have a look at that. And then I think my next one was the questions, and this is the picture of my pony. So I'm going to skip over to this because I just want to very quick, let me try and tell you this story very quickly. So this is yesterday, and you'll Bella, you'll appreciate this jump. I think it's jumping off a broken bridge, and that leap of faith. There's all sorts of metaphors here. But 4 years ago, I was told by the doctors to give up riding and take up yoga and drink wine. And it was just like, what? No, like I can't, basically give up your career, give up riding, give it all up. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't, think I was in a really bad place. And I've loved horses all my life. And I use this approach to get me back where I am today. So if we'd have been having this conversation 4 years ago and you'd said, Belinda, remember the future, I might very well have said to you, I'm sat on a pony and I'm jumping off the broken bridge at Porth. Yeah, that might have been in my head. That would be my goal. But it seemed completely unachievable at the time. And I know this isn't a business metaphor, but we've got another horsey person in the room, so I can't resist. And I do love a good metaphor. But what I did was I took very, very, very small steps. It was lots and lots and lots of little small steps to rebuild, and to get myself back to that position where I could get out on my pony, and I'm doing that. So it's not just a methodology for business, it's a methodology for life as well. In terms of, taking things one small step at a time, building up that momentum, and over time, then you'll start to see. So last year we were out competing again and we won across country, which just didn't seem even possible at the time, when I was sat in front of those doctors. So I hope it serves as a bit of inspiration, even if you're not a horsey person, in that sense of kind of going, even when the odds seem absolutely impossible, I talk about how I agiled my way back to well-being. And it's about, I mean, for me, like the chronic illness thing wasn't about, I switched my mindset to, rather than curing this, I'm going to manage it. I'm going to manage it one small step at a time. And that's what's got me back to where I was. So it's yeah, it's a really nice, but it is yeah, it's oh, you like that? Yeah, I like that metaphor, and I could talk about it loads more. I'm trying to make myself really succinct because I'm conscious of time. Has anybody got any questions?
Thank you so much, Belinda. I think mostly, I think you were so good at answering questions as we went through in actual fact. But if anyone does have any last questions or anything that they want to just clarify, I'm aware that for this sort of system to work, you have to commit. You have to dive in and commit, and you have to initially habit stack it. You have to make sure that you have a trigger, or like I tell you, a great big post it on your screen that you put on at the end of the day, say, check your this or check your that or do your this, which for me is check my Trello or look at my Agile plan or whatever it is that makes you just get into the habit of doing it, and then it becomes a habit, then it becomes part of your process. And it is so much more than just making a plan and breaking it down into small chunks. It really is a process that you can keep rotating, and I think that's what's important to take away. If anyone has anything you want to ask, please just unmute and speak.
Yeah,
We're only a small
yeah.
group today, so we're not going to be bombarded. But if anyone wants to ask something or say something, then that is absolutely fine. I'm looking at those mutes, but they're all on.
That's cool. I don't feel it makes me feel. I think it is about like so what I get a lot of feedback from like my clients on is like it helps keep them accountable, helps like when you're on your own, it's really hard when you haven't got somebody else to bounce off. Like so it's a bit of a like companion for me almost. Like it's and it allows me to sort of, step back and look at the big picture as well. And like Nicola said, this is a tiny little part of it that's actually, there's a whole book, full of stuff that you can use that there's sort of longer term planning. So this is very much, getting people going in that day to day and moving forward. And then looking at how we can build that momentum and give ourselves that kind of small chunks of things that we want to do.
Yeah, and for you mentioned it right at the start, and I think it's important mentioning it again. As someone who self-identifies as probably ADHD, I find that it's very easy for me to get frozen by overwhelm or frozen by the magnitude of stuff that I want to do, not necessarily that's coming at me, that I create for myself because I'm a doer, I'm a do everything 120% rather than 100%, and consequently that brings a lot to do, and I can find myself frozen and procrastinating and going off and allowing the squirrels to distract me. And what I've found since I've been using this is that I do have that sort of core to come back to always and go, right, what is just one thing I could do? What is just one thing? Okay, I could book that speaker. Okay, and then once you start, everyone's probably heard my favorite quote, which is, if you want to change the world, begin by making your bed. And that's really what I get from this, is that it allows me to focus in on that one thing, and I can look at my Trello boards and I can go, right, okay, well, that's one thing I can do. Now, is it the most relevant thing or not? Sometimes not, but actually that's not the purpose of why I need to do that just one thing. And just one thing is another of my favorite hashtags. And this has allowed me to, rather than just do the one random thing that comes to my head, or as people often do, is the things they like to do first, which is what to-do list people tend to do, is do all the nice jobs that are nice and easy and that we enjoy doing, and then the frogs get pushed to the next day and the next day and the next day until we have to do that tax return, or we have to do those accounts, or we have to have that awful conversation that we really don't want to have, or we have to close that thing. And so for me, that's what I find with this really helps me do, is to not only string the thoughts out and make me plan properly as to where I want to go and how I'm going to get there, but to also take it in that just one thing step by step and get out of the overwhelm. So yeah, that's my little take on it all, just to wrap up.
I use the word balance a lot. you know, it's about sort of creating that balance between the must do's and the wouldn't it be lovely ifs to try and get us to a point where we're not either one extreme or the other. Like you say, like we're not just doing the wouldn't it be lovely ifs and not getting the must do's done, or whether we're just focusing on the must do's and the firefighting and not getting the fun of, you know, being able to enjoy, you know, my board has like work and life on it. So I have different colors. So that's like my project board. And then I have a main board, which is behind my laptop. But that has so like there literally is that's the post-it note for yesterday, me jumping that broken brittle my thing. So that's you know, that was on my board. So I've got that mix. So orange is my colour for life. And that can be all sorts of things from like MOTing the truck to going riding or, you know, seeing family or like the horse has got the dentist this week. That's on there as well as things like my workshops and my one-to-ones and my you know, the business development stuff as well. So it really allows me to sort of have that mix. I used a similar process when I was looking. Unfortunately, when I got my pony, the place where I was going to keep him fell through. So I used the same process for finding somewhere new. All the post-it notes were options, and then I tracked them across the board as I was doing them. I've, you know, I share it. I do sort of quite a bit of mindset and confidence coaching as well. Seems to be kind of built in. And I do that with sort of horsey friends as well as business friends, and I find that really helpful as well. But yeah, have a look and, you know, have a play about with it. I always sort of say take an agile approach to being agile. So don't try and big bang it to everything. Pick something, you know, that particularly you're working on at the moment, apply it to that and then let it grow and evolve organically.
Brilliant. Thank you, Belinda. That's all that remains for me to say is thank you so very much for coming in and
Thank
sharing your time
you.
so
Oh,
generously
I'll
with us
pop
today.
up that yeah, let me pop up
Yeah,
that
pop up the
not
QR
the
code,
picture
although
of
I have put the link
one. Yeah.
into our portal, which will
I'll
be
have you.
up
Brilliant.
and live.
Brilliant.
It will be up and live within the hour. So I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm quick with these things.
She
Otherwise,
is.
I
It's
leave
on
them
a
a week.
post-it note, clearly. But
Yes,
yeah, that's been me. And yeah,
brilliant.
feel free to connect. Look me up on LinkedIn as well. I'm on LinkedIn, and so I'm always happy to connect. And yeah, I hope you found it a useful hour.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Belinda. Thank you for those of you who've come and joined us live today. It's great to spend time with you. You know, it's my most favourite thing to do, spend time with my slayers. And hope to see some of you tomorrow morning. I do a free co-working every